Urgent apocalypse at sea. Russian ships are sinking en masse. A powerful strike by the SBU and the Ukrainian Navy. Naval drones have finished off Russian oil. This devastation was caught on video. Our special operation has turned all of Russia upside down. Turkey is involved too. All this and more coming up. Watch until the end. This is Ukraine Today, Rina Taslanova with the latest updates. Urgent, a Russian tanker is sinking off the coast of Senegal. This is a vessel that operated on the routes of Russia's shadow fleet. According to media reports, the vessel turned out to be an oil tanker sailing under the Panamanian flag. Sources noted that it is capable of carrying up to 50,000 tons of petroleum products. After leaving a Russian port, the vessel remained stationary for a long time off the African coast. According to journalists, the tanker had recently attracted attention due to suspicious logistics typical of vessels operating on routes supplying Russian oil in circumvention of sanctions. One of the experts quoted by the media suggested that the prolonged idle time without technical support could have created risks for the hull. This happened immediately after the previous incident. Thus, near the Turkish coast of the Black Sea, explosions occurred on two tankers belonging to Russia's shadow fleet, causing the vessels to catch fire. It was later revealed that this was a joint operation by the SBU and the Ukrainian Navy. Sea-Baby Maritime drones struck the sanctioned oil tankers. This was reported by UP's sources in the SBU.
It was a joint operation of the 13th Main Directorate of Military Counterintelligence of the SBU and the Ukrainian Navy. The upgraded Sea-Baby Maritime drones successfully targeted the vessels. They are capable of covering long distances and are equipped with enhanced warheads.
The video shows that after being hit, both tankers sustained critical damage and were effectively put out of operation. This will deal a significant blow to the transportation of Russian oil. During the attack, the sanctioned vessels were empty and heading to the port of Novorossiysk for loading.
The SBU continues to take active measures to cut off Russia's financial ability to wage war against Ukraine. Sea-Baby Maritime drones disabled vessels that could have transported oil, worth almost $70 million, and helped the Kremlin circumvent international sanctions.
According to the Turkish Ministry of Transport, the cause of the fire was external impact. It is reported that the second tanker, which was sailing under the flag of Gambia without cargo, may have hit a mine. There are now risks of it sinking. Two high-speed rescue boats, a tug, and an emergency vessel were immediately dispatched to the scene. A fire in the engine room caused heavy smoke. It should be noted that both tankers are on the list of vessels subject to sanctions against Russia. Russians have indeed been plagued by nothing but misfortunes with oil tankers lately. For example, in Turkey, the tanker Eagle S, one of the vessels from Russia's so-called shadow fleet, which enables oil trading in circumvention of sanctions and is possibly linked to damage to undersea cables, is being dismantled. The Eagle S vessel, 229 meters long, met its end in a Turkish port on the Aegean coast. It is being dismantled by cranes. The bow of the ship was on shore, while the stern remained afloat. The publication Politica reported that the tanker had been transporting Russian oil subject to sanctions since the beginning of 2023. And in 2024, it damaged as many as 5 underwater cables in the Gulf of Finland, after which it was detained by the Finnish authorities. According to the publication, ship disposal is also carried out in countries such as Denmark, Norway, and the Netherlands, where strict safety regulations for people and the environment are in place, as well as in Turkey, where the shipbreaking business is doing quite well. The Kremlin's shadow fleet is finished. Putin's tankers are being scrapped one after another. The vessels that Moscow used to circumvent Western sanctions and secretly transport oil are rapidly reaching the end of their service life and turning into scrap metal. What does this mean for the Russian economy, and how will it impact Russia's oil exports and the Kremlin's budget? Watch.
Putin is losing billions.
I doubt I can add anything truly novel or insightful to this discussion here.
Russia's shadow fleet has entered a phase of mass decommissioning. Aging tankers are being forced to sell at a discount and in the shadows. More and more old Russian tankers are reaching the end of their service life and need to be scrapped. As a result, floating scrap metal is turning into real scrap, undermining the capabilities of the shadow fleet and forcing sales to sell ships falling under sanctions at a discount and look for ways to offset the losses.
The American side is very strictly monitoring the sale of Russian oil and liquefied gas to end consumers. In addition, the American side has stated that if the Russian Federation does not agree to agricultural negotiations, they will impose secondary sanctions against the end consumers of Russian energy resources. This is a very serious blow to the Russian economy.
The average age of the Shadow Fleet's ships is 20 years. At the same time, 60% of the vessels are that age or older.
At the moment, the Russian side is forced to admit that the expenditure side of the Russian budget has increased by almost 3.5% of GDP. And this is evidence that there is practically no money left in the Russian Federation's treasury. And accordingly, the ability to replenish the financial resources available for the operation of the Shadow Fleet are reduced to a minimum.
This month, dismantling began in a Turkish port of the tanker Eagle S, which became known after the incident in the Gulf of Finland. A year ago, the vessel damaged several underwater cables with its anchor, and Finnish authorities discovered suspicious equipment on board.
The Russian Federation is forced to sell oil at a 40% discount. This clearly indicates that even ordinary end consumers fully understand the significant risks associated with potential severe sanctions from their American partners and allies. And the subsequent further actions of the Russian Federation, specifically lowering the global price of oil, clearly indicate that they are indeed essentially forced to significantly dump prices in order to retain at least a certain considerable number of loyal consumers of Russian energy resources.
Many ships in the Shadow Fleet have already exceeded their service life, so these rusty tubs won't last long before they have to be decommissioned. In 2024, 409 ships were officially scrapped.
The number of decommissioned ships will continue to increase. This pressure is also continuing on other countries that provide their flags to Russian ships. It should also be noted that EU countries have imposed additional sanctions against the so-called Shadow Fleet of the Russian Federation, minimizing the opportunities to use this loophole to replenish the Russian budget.
Russian tax revenues from oil sales are at their lowest since the start of the war. Sanctions are hitting Russia hard, and there will be even more of them.
Losses from United States sanctions have already reached approximately $100 billion. This is a very serious blow to the capabilities of the Russian economy and, accordingly, the Russian government's ability to continue actively financing military operations in Ukraine. In
October, New Zealand imposed additional sanctions against 65 ships. And recently, Canada also expanded its own restrictions. Another 100 ships from Russia's Shadow Fleet were added to the list.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now. Targeted strikes are being carried out not only against the Shadow Fleet, but also against Russia's rear. The apocalypse is coming. Muscovites and residents of other regions prepare for darkness. The armed forces of Ukraine are destroying Russia's energy sector in response to the occupiers' attacks. The likelihood of prolonged blackouts is growing exponentially. What awaits the Kremlin's country? All the details are coming up next.
The Ukrainian armed forces are significantly increasing both the number and effectiveness of strikes on Russian heating and power generation facilities. The actions of Ukraine's defense forces are a response to the ongoing strikes on Ukraine's civilian and critical infrastructure.
In order to somehow bring this war to a stalemate, to shift it, we need to learn not only to repel enemy attacks on the front line, but also to suppress their logistics and their aviation. That's why it became necessary, and I'm not even mentioning the need to strike at Russia's military-industrial enterprises and energy system.
By trying to leave Ukrainians without electricity, the Russian dictator is condemning millions of Russians to a dark and cold winter. If they threaten a blackout, for example, in the capital of Ukraine, the Kremlin must realize that a blackout will also come to the Russian capital.
This is Belgorod. Basically, there's no electricity anywhere in Belgorod at all. Yes.
Since the beginning of November, Ukraine has carried out dozens of strikes on Russian electrical substations. Long-range drones are cutting off power in occupied Donetsk and Crimea.
Basically, charge your phones. It looks like they've decided to cut our power everywhere. I stopped counting after more than 30.
By Kaluzhskaya 32, darkness, and then it goes on darkness, darkness, darkness. And cruise missiles and jet-powered drones are introducing millions of residents in the European part of Russia, including Moscow and the Moscow region, to the delights of blackouts. In addition to Ukrainian weapons, we shouldn't forget about the deliveries of Western arms, which Ukraine has also recently started using to strike Russian territory.
The corresponding approval has been obtained. Therefore, we can say that the territories of the Rostov, Kursk, Belgorod, and Bryansk regions are within the strike zone. Of Western strike systems, I want to emphasize again ATA-CMS, Scalp, Storm Shadow, as well as accordingly the modernized version of the S-200 surface-to-air missile system.
Before the onset of winter, Ukraine possesses a wide range of powerful long-range weaponry. Bark, Peklo, Polyanitsia, and FP-1 rocket drones, as well as Flamingo and Long Neptune cruise missiles, can reach the largest Russian cities, including heating and power supply facilities in Moscow and St. Petersburg.
Taking into account the climatic features of the Russian Federation and the tactical and technical characteristics of the Ukrainian strike systems, the Russian Federation is facing a harsh winter, both literally and figuratively. First and foremost, this concerns thermal power plants and other production facilities that sustain the life of major Russian cities.
And what do you think about the latest events? Share your opinions in the comments, like the video, and stay up to date with the main news. There's more to come.